Welcome back, audience. It sounded like some fucking corporate schmuck. What's up? That's what I meant to say. Or are you asking what's up with the bracelets? I'm collecting the bracelets. These are from the dance parties and classes. Anyway, I want to talk about something serial today. A little bit of beer. Well, I want to talk about the concept of Malicide. And it speaks about this idea of reduction of corruption, right? And I often speak about alchemy. This is exactly what it is. Alchemy is destruction of malice and creation of, what's that word? Benevolence? Right. Why not malice? Yeah, benevolence. All right. But anyway, I want to talk about this like on all respects. This idea. Why it is so important. Why I think it's the first and primary purpose or heart's desire that should be in all of us. I don't think that like the real life even begins before you eradicate malice. Well, I shouldn't say eradicate completely, but be in the process of eradication of malice. Continuously eradicating malice. And of course, I'm talking about, you know, the governing structures. The governing structures. I don't just talk about, the government or the people in the corporate world and whatnot and the whole bullshit. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the governing structures themselves. Like, what makes these people do these things? Why do they want to create that type of corrupt law to get away with that, right? Why would they want to pursue the way of corruption, right? Like, these are the questions that need to be asked. Okay. Now, of course, you don't just approach just with that. You also need to approach, I say, like, everything that you approach, you got to approach from the physical, like what people do, the astral, what people imagine, and the causal is what people feel. You got to start and approach it on all three levels. Yes, you're going to have to arrest some of the people. And yes, if they're really evil and they're caught, and they somehow escaped and they were protected by the legal system, somehow, some way, the justice will be served to them as well, whether they're going to end up dead or in jail. Right? That needs to be done. This is how you eradicate evil. Now the problem is like what stops from somebody else to step into the same person's position, even though it was important to eliminate that. You don't want to replace it with another one. This is why it's important to look at like what are the governing structures above um, all these events that take place, right? That benevolence is necessary. Like, we have to ask, what is this benevolence thing? And benevolence, by definition, must be more powerful than malevolence. Because if the benevolence is not more powerful than malevolence, then the life is not worth the candle. Obviously, I mean, what kind of life is there just to keep on suffering? This is not life. This is nonsense, So I think suffering is artificially induced, if you can call that governing structure artificial, which is like the matrix, right? And everything that I'm saying up to this point, I'm pointing to this idea of actually changing the whole way of life on this planet in general. All of the structures, all of the laws, everything, they have to follow a certain type of principle that should not be broken. And everybody in the world is supposed to agree that that principle should not be broken, because, Even the people who would that holds the corruption in them should not have a choice about this, right? Everybody, in the end, supposed to be in agreement with that. Those who don't agree, they must be evil. I don't know. But the principles must be set. Like for example, like allowing company or corporation to be an entity, it's a fucking disaster. I can show how from that one seed, all of these other branches, all of these other consequences of that happen. Okay, how for example, somebody can refuse a business because you don't following a certain political, niche and whatnot. That would be like a light version, right? And then some corporations running the entire businesses just out of poisoning people, or causing suffering, or you see what I'm trying to say. That all happens because we allow the corporations to be entities. Like for example, they can own information, they can license the software, like they can do shit like that the corporations should never have access to. All corporations supposed to be utilities, okay? And so that right given to a corporation fucks everything up. If it's a utility, then it can decide like, well, we're just going to program people to like this stuff, and we're gonna make it as cheap as possible and make maximum profit. And so, you see what I'm trying to say? It's acting like an entity. It's acting like a person, because corporations are allowed to have their own laws, right? Like within the corporation, this is how we run the business, and they're allowed to get away with that. Should never happen. Corporations should not have their own laws. All laws supposed to be for all the corporations. They're supposed to be just utilities. And then you would say like, okay, who's then running the company? People running the company. Each single person may have an opinion, but that does not determine what the entire company is going to do. Does that make sense? So anyway, I don't want to babble about this too much, but people supposed to remain people, and corporations supposed to be utilities, not entities. And that law has been broken. That principle has been broken, and everything you see, that most of the things that for example, if that would be the case, Facebook would be decentralized application as an utility with no ads, and it would be actually just trying to connect people and not program people to be addicted to this and to take their own, the entire attention, the resources and livelihoods. It's more than money. It's not just like programming people to buy shit that they don't need and chase the fashions that they don't really want, and spend all the money to satisfy these hedonistic desires that were just sort of programmed into people, right? So it's like a virus. It's spreading. It's evil. Facebook is evil. Okay, Instagram is evil. It must be like Mastodon. I'm using Mastodon, and I have 4 friends or whatnot, right? But dude, it's better to have 4 real friends and use the platform that is for that in appropriate ways. Like in appropriate amounts. You don't need to use a lot. Like if you do something interesting once a week and whatnot, you share that and that's it. And like it's just like I'm trying to say, like what you normally share with people anyway, even if you had no app and just your phone. You know, he would still say like, "Hey, what's up? What's happening?" Like, "Yeah, what you been doing?" Like, "Yeah, this is what I've been doing. Check this shit out." Like that's social. That's normal. That's supposed to be part of life. And that if the app does that function, then everything else can be gone. Nobody gives a fuck about anything else. It's bullshit. Everything else is fucking bullshit. And don't you just like look at me and go like, "Oh yeah, it is bullshit," and go back on the fucking Facebook scrolling like a schmuck. Don't be a douchebag. You know what I'm saying? If you do agree with this, then align your actions with it. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's what you should be doing. That's what I've been doing. Like, this is what you always need to be doing, actually, It being a process of eliminating the corruption within yourself. Always. There has to be a process in you that you keep on reducing the corruption within yourself, which is called self-correction, right? And we're all supposed to be beings with the capacity for self-correcting. In fact, that's probably the only thing that is necessary of you to start living a life that is benevolent. And the benevolence should have better rap. See I'm trying to say? Like, I'm tired of looking at these fucking videos and people posting, it's like, oh, do this, like, look what the bad boys are doing to attract women. And then you see, like, just breeds fucking evil. You see? They have that hedonistic type of sex that is just like loveless and shit like that. And there's this ego and arrogance. Oh, yeah, look at me, I slept with, blah, blah, blah. And you're a fucking loser, man. You're a fucking loser. That's what you are. You got caught by this fucking bullshit, got brainwashed by seducing women and thinking that's love. If you have a heart of gold, if you're a piece of shit, that's why you need to seduce a woman. Because if you're a real man, if you're a great man, or at least you're being in the process of becoming one, by actively reducing that crap within yourself, you don't need to seduce no woman, because you are that. Whatever you are is enough. But is that like what are they looking at? No, I know that these young men maybe no, these sometimes, like, these young men, they're not young, but they act like young. They're like in the 30s and 40s. Some of them young men, but they're still looking for the brain in their fucking ass. One goes one way, the group of people goes the way, oh, let's just hate women right now, and women that basically don't exist to us. So that's just like a one group of men. And others like, oh, we embrace your evil side, and we congratulate you for sleeping with 1,000 men and making show out of it and making money out of it. Good for you. And being boyfriends to these women, or husbands to these women, which is a fucking abomination. And you could not be a bigger cock and a simp and a disgrace to the mankind. Man, the emphasis on the man. So I had enough of this fucking bullshit. So, like, why does it concern you? Because it does fucking concern me. The things that I want to create in my life, I don't want to fucking have that shit, like this overhead to worry about. You know, um, I want to be free to create exactly what I want in the way I want to create. That's what I want, and anything in the way of that will fucking meet my wrath. No, but it will. It will. I tell you, it will. It is already. Like, my whole life, just like a couple of years ago, kind of changed. I was still thinking that, like, I'm just going to get away with it and just live happily ever after. I told you, and I realized that, like, fuck no, this is spiritual war. Okay. All right, cool. I get what's going on, and I'm in it. I'm in it. You know, and a lot of things, some things are clear to me, and a lot of things are not clear of how it's going to happen. But I don't give a shit. It has to happen. It has to happen. Like, what the fuck? I'm not like, look, like, no, fuck you. Like, I want to see countries becoming without governments and just acting as protectorates. I want to see that. I want to see all the laws that are like aligned to the law of nature, or like principles of nature. There has to be this these universal principles. There is a code of every society, and you can express them in the geometry, you can express them in words, you can express them in symbols, you can express them in whatever way you want, but these are going to be like a natural laws that you cannot break if you want to have, you know, a nice society. Then within that you have degrees of freedom, but you cannot break the sacred. You cannot break the sacred. The sacred must exist as a seed for everything else to flourish. And right now, we're in the process of demolishing this old seed and sprouting the new one. We are in the process of this metamorphosis. This is why it takes of us to act on all three levels. It takes of us to act on the soul level, where you have to alchemize the feelings, because when you take this path, you know, all the fucking all the evil comes to you, knocking on your door in your heart, making you feel a certain way, torturing you basically into submitting to the matrix. And you have to fucking take it and go with the punches. And this is just one of the biggest lessons in my life. It's like, oh shit, I have to fucking just roll with the punches. I gotta do what they keep on doing it, but I gotta fucking take it. Gotta take that shit and alchemize it. Then what are you imagining? What kind of imagination? Like, because you also have to say that they're gonna be, when I say they, I don't want to say they, it's a system, it's a game, okay? Injecting, it's a consciousness challenge system that you're playing against, is injecting that information and seeing if you are still sort of like gullible for these thoughts and these things that you imagine. By the way, the thought is imaginary, okay? The thought happens in your imagination, in your mind, not in your brain, okay? So sometimes you can say what people are thinking. That's the same thing as imagining. Okay, so if they're in the process of this emotional thinking, as I call it, that specific type of thinking, and not the logical thinking and reasonable thinking that needs to be applied on tangible things, that's the only thinking that is applicable. Other type of thinking may not exist and actually shouldn't exist in a benevolent world. So, but if people are still running the other way and these thoughts are running there, then there's some alchemy to do there. Some alchemy, some revision to do that. Like real, you know, like fuck. Like I'm also tired looking at these people like, oh, manifest this, you know, oh, everybody is just like skipping the heart, you know, like, and saying like, oh, you want this, so yeah, let's just fulfill our desires, right? But these are mind desires, these are body desires, which is not wrong to fulfill. The only wrong thing is that when they are fulfilling desires that's supposed to be fulfilled in the heart, right? When they're compensating, there's certain mind desires that need to be fulfilled, there's certain body desires, but unless you fulfill your soul desires first, these are all going to be abominable. And so fulfilling soul desire is through love, through whatever you feel. You open up, you do your best fucking shit, like, you know, to be wherever you need to be and do whatever you need to do with all this fucking crap coming at you, and you're still alchemizing and remaining in that space where you need to be, despite all that energy, right? Where's other people, well, some people, what they would do is they would not go there. They would not go there where it's fire. Everybody navigates like that, but that's okay. It's not a problem. But some of us cannot do that, because you have to go in the fire to make a change, right? And so when you are going into the fire, you're burning this malice, you're burning the old. So that's, to me, it's like a regular day in my life. It's alchemy. And I'm just becoming more functional about this. But I don't see any kind of prospects until this time cycle is completely remodeled. This is why I feel like up to 2029 is going to be this crucial time where you can eradicate all the seeds of evil. Okay? And I'm doing it, and I'm doing it, and it's working, and it's great, and it's fucking amazing. It can be done. It can totally should be a way of life for every man, and the real woman, of course. You know, because when I came here, um, all of the fucking stuff was coming out, like all of these dark desires in me, everything was coming out, coming out, coming out, and it's just trying to almost force me into this um like um like a hedonistic moron, I'm trying to say, and to become this fucking excuse of a man that a lot of men are being pushed into, you see. And so I had all these thoughts and everything, and I said, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it was just like a realization, just like, okay, all right, okay, so these things are just coming out. This is all there. All right, cool. All right, so I guess, I get to work. I get to uh, do something about it. And little by little, quite fast, I actually, got rid of the first addictions, all of these, like, all of these, like, the strongest one, like, excuse me, the strongest one was lust based. It was basically, I don't want to say porn because it wasn't just porn. It was like some fucking, the thing in your head that just like sexually deviant, but not in a good way. Because I mean, I'm not talking about, like if you love each other and you are real deal that you connected, fucking go nuts. I'm trying to say that's when you can go nuts. But I'm talking about like at the heart level here, being deviant at the heart level, because when you're deviant at the heart level, you're hurting somebody, right? You always subduing the innocence somehow, right? That's what you do. Because, like if you go on this hedonistic pleasure hunt and with stuff like that, you're hurting somebody. Like somewhere on the other end, that person that must, belong to you, or it's kind of connected to you somehow, or potentially could be, but everything is connected. We all are connected. So that's what you do. You're hurting that person, basically, which is you, the other half of you, right? And the only way you getting away with that, not getting the feedback of hurt, is you keep on pacifying that thing, and that's the definition of addiction. Okay, and addiction is evil. Okay, and obsession, there's another word for it. Anybody who creates obsession in another person is an evil person. Evil entity is acting through that person or a vessel and whatnot. See, that's another thing to recognize about malice. Malice is the reduction of the corruption itself, of the whatever the malice is, that seed of evil, like that feeling that makes person do things, not see things clearly, not feel the feedback of how they impact the person that is next to them or the person that loves them. You see, that all is kind of disengaged, because like they wouldn't be able to fucking take that shit to realize that how much fucking shit and crap they're creating in the world by just chasing their hedonistic pleasures. You see, and so the ego cannot handle that. It's too much for the ego, because it's too much of a feedback. So that's why, and my question is, like, what about the free will? You see, like, that's another law, natural law, that is supposed to be recognized very clearly. Free will. Does ego have free will? If you let the ego run wild and give it the will, what fucking happens? That's the definition of the evil. That's what happens. So my take is that no, ego does not have free will, and all ego will must be abolished and stopped in some fucking shape or form. And if that is successful, then automatically everything else will fall into place. Okay? And so yeah, so the more people are going into this hedonistic seeking, like for example, right now, like some idiots are seeking, excuse me, idiots are singing in like a neighboring property here. I moved to the jungle to avoid from all of this, but every so often that happens. Completely out of tune, just fucking shouting, just screaming, no class, no nothing. It's like, what the fuck is this even? It's like crying, like it's just like listening to the monkeys howl. This is exactly what But look, this is how people deal with that, right? I mean, is this like? Do we always have to do this? We always have to fucking deal with life rather than live life. So if something that can be done and it can be done, then fuck, that's what's supposed to be focused on. All of the energy is supposed to be focused on. It's just like all of that, like the evil eye. The evil eye is that thing that needs to be looked at, and all the energy must be put through that eye. And you flip it out on the other side, and things are good. As if you do not go through that portal, to that ring, which is by the way the symbol of a portal, Lords of the Rings, right? Lords of the Portals. That portal. And what did they say? They said one ring that rules them all. That's it. That's that original eye. And it's also like a tree, right? Like, so you got a trunk, and then if you look at the tree and you have like a cross section of the tree and look at it from the top, you will see that it's just going to be lots of bubbles. The branches and the trunk and stuff like that. There's going to be the big bubble around, a little bit like smaller bubbles, and then even smaller and smaller and smaller. And you're going to see this like almost like a radiating object, right? And so you can be trimming the little branches all the time, but you can also go straight there. Okay? And when you put all your attention there, that's the whole concept of alchemy. You flip it all around and you block all the evil and you pop into the benevolent side. That's what it is. As long as if you're on the benevolent side, to me it's like this. Like if you can be either on the benevolent side or malevolent side. There's no gray zone. Okay? And this does not eliminate fun. This does not eliminate sex. This does not make you into a monk or sexless robot and whatnot. Benevolence is not that. But you do all these pleasurable things now in the background of love. Okay? That's the difference. And now, because they're in the background of love, they don't have that type of effect like as a hedonistic pleasure that causing suffering in other people. And now, the more people are alchemizing, the more people are looking through that original portal, the more feedback the people get real quickly. The woman who casts love spells, is like, oh, I'm a witch. Let me show you how to cast a love spell on a man and make him obsessed with me. Well, it's not a man, first of all. You just caught a boy, okay? And you're going to pay the price, okay? Because this is just what's going to happen. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. And exact same thing is going to happen to you. You're going to get obsessed about something. And you're not going to know, you may not even know why. But because you caused obsession in another through the spell, it came back to you. and it's coming back to you. The fences are closing in on all of these fucking witches and these bitches that they don't even know what the fuck they're doing, you know. um what kind of person are you that you need to cast a spell, to make another person obsessed with you? Are you that disgusting? Are you that disgraceful that you need to cast a spell for somebody to love you? Because this is exactly what you admit when you cast a spell for somebody to love you. You say, like, I'm not enough, so I have to fuck with somebody's life. That's what you're saying, you stupid ass bitch. Fuck you. And all these witch burning things that people were talking about. No, of course they were actual witch, hunts and shit like that. What's happening in medieval ages. But the burning is really symbolic. It is that part of a woman that is a witch that is burning up. The more people like us alchemizing these energies. I can alchemize any kind of witch. Yeah. I can alchemize any kind of fucking witch. All these spells, all these anything just comes back to nothing. And I'm not a nice, I'm not a nice guy. Like there's something about me that was very clearly realized again through my own experience. Is that there's two types of malice, if you will. There's type of malice that does not push a certain type of threshold, does not push through the certain type of threshold, okay? And that malice responds to compassion, okay? That malice responds to compassion. And some people do just need, a hug, a kindness, and all of their little tantrums kind of go away, okay? These are like, I would say, like innocent tantrums, okay? That, you see what I'm trying to say? Childish. They have not crossed the threshold into becoming serious. There is that threshold, by the way. And when the malice grows to that point and crosses that threshold, it becomes a completely different structure. Compassion is not something that it responds to. It will only respond to power. It will only respond to alchemy. Okay? And that is this masculine spiritual energy. The real, people talk about light, when the vampires are burning in the light. That is a real masculine energy, the organizing principle that some of these people may call orgon and stuff like that, but it's real. It's a real power. It is infinite. And it only grows upon alchemizing these things, upon alchemizing all of these witches and all of these warlocks. Okay? Spanking up a bitch. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I mean, but I'm not a nice guy, because if I meet a person, because I can feel people intent, and I can feel the intensity of the intent, and I can feel that somebody just like, just playing with me and stuff like that. And I feel somebody is trying to make me jealous. Like, I might not even be interested in that type of person, but the very intent that's being sent, it's a type of an attack. It's like, I'm going to get your attention. I'm going to make you feel insecure about yourself or whatever, because I'm doing, this jealousy attack on you. That comes from a woman. Okay? And some of it is sort of like, it's just like a playful. It's not serious. You can feel it when it's not serious, right? Like, it's just like, it doesn't push you into it like very deep and intense emotions. You just see it as sort of like an innocent tantrum, right? It's this type of little thing that just a little kindness and love would not fix, right? That's there, admittably, and Not only admittability, that's like the half of the story, the half of life. But then there is this where it pushes the threshold. And then when it pushes the threshold, you feel it. You're like, and then some other fucking thing starts coming through you, like that spirit that you may call the evil spirit. Okay? So that spirit was trying to be propagating. It's like a provoking you into this thing, right? And I'm very aware of these things. Like I say, like I would not have like an interest in that particular woman, for example, but I could see that she's like trying to get that reaction of me attacking through the intent this way, right? Assuming that I don't see people's thoughts and intentions, and I don't feel their intentions. I feel it, and when it crosses the line, and I was like, okay, this is no longer cute. Okay, this is something that crossed the line, and it crosses the line when it just appears in your heart as this like this burning sensation. This is was line was crossed. Okay, now that shit is burning in your heart. What you gonna do with all that junk? All that junk inside your junk. It's very important. Are you gonna go into this? Because if you go into this, you're in it. Like there's no way out. You see what I'm trying to say? It may take 4 hours. It may take a day or two to stay in that fire, but you're not backing out of this. Okay, this is the only decision that you have to make. You don't make the decision. Well, I'm gonna see how it goes. No, you say like, okay, I'm popping on the other side of this fire, and that is final. Okay, and this is when the line was crossed on the energetic level, and the punishment must, so to speak, must be, the reality must be corrected because it crossed the line. And that's the real protection. You protect yourself and other people around you from evil. You're not a tyrant. You don't try to suppress these like a little tantrums. They're not serious. They can be laughed at, and they can be made light out of. But when it crosses the line, that's the one to look at. Okay. The difference between play fighting and then trying to kill each other, for example, right? You see my point. So yeah, that's what happens. The line is crossed, poof. And then saying, all right, cool. Challenge accepted. Boom. You could not do that. You could just walk away from this. But don't, from this type of alchemical challenge, I never step away from the challenge if it is in my way. If it is somewhere that I want to go, if it's something that I want to do, if it is in my way, I never back down a challenge. You can also get distracted with the challenges that you may not need to fight. They may not even be yours to fight. So that's what I also recognize about me. I was like, I think I'm fighting way too many battles, and some battles that are just not from. Nobody's gonna like. When I shouldn't say nobody's like. I'm not involved into this. Like I'm not gonna fight a battle for somebody else's movie. That's their life, right? And when I realized that, like, okay, they're not here to share my journey, right? Like because you have to recognize, like, your true friends are sharing life with you, okay? Your true love is sharing life with you, okay? If an entity, if a soul is not sharing life with you, they're not in your life, right? They're not part of it. That's the very important thing to recognize, of like what makes somebody to be in it with you, and that is that they're sharing the life with you. That's the definition of, that's my tribe. If somebody's sharing life with me, okay, meaning that same vision, like we're trying to create something, the dreams in this world that produces something good and has a good type of impact, these beacons of light. That's what we're supposed to be interested at. Okay, so when that threshold is passed, we go with the like the Gandalf did, you shall not pass kind of thing. Boom. Okay. And like I said, sometimes it takes like 4 hours, and sometimes it takes a day, and sometimes it gets super intense, but you just don't back out, and that's it, and you're good. You're good. That's what you would people call like the evil eye, or that Mount Doom eye. You see what I'm trying to say? Like that's what that is. It's trying to come in. The evil is trying to enter your life, basically, and you just don't let it through alchemy. And evil cannot enter your life. And wherever you go, whatever people are, connect to you and say, in because souls do like that, on a soul level. Like I don't give a shit about like what people are saying anymore, or even what they're doing, because some people are just not congruent with their heart. But the people who congruent with their heart, they very quickly realize that it's like, oh, okay, this is the connection in my life. That's how this connection plays out in my life, right? We both like mutually and synergistically enhance each other's lives. Okay, all right. 1 + 1 = 11. Synergy. Cool. All right. You hang with that boy or that gal. Okay, because they're on your side, basically. Others, they just taste it out, and it's like, oh, this is too much, and then Cinderella effect. So those people who are undecided yet, who just still perhaps need a little few more lessons, and see what really Matrix brings, um, to make their decision. And it really is like that. Cheers. Not my favorite beer. Wasn't my idea. I like the other type. It's alright, I'm trying to say, but this is not the King's beer. I would ideally have it brewed here. Oh, this is exactly what I'm gonna brew. Fucking beer over here. Yeah, that type of beer that makes you buff rather than getting like, soft belly. Some kind of supercharged nootropic beer, packed with mushrooms or some shit. You take that and you get all beefy and shit. Anyway. Yo. I was gonna say something here. So yeah, man, the Malicide. This is something that has to be part of your life, and this is my realization was that in one of those realizations, they were about women specifically, because I'm a man from my perspective. Like I gotta see things the way they are. And there was one thing, and I have to say something. This is part of the simping disease, okay? And that is exactly not allowing that badness to seep through, right through your heart, to because it's essentially poison you and your partner, right? And especially if you work together, like if you both understand that it's neither you neither, because you both understand that you act from the benevolence. So if some shit is entering you, like this feeling, you work on that feeling together, and you meet each other on the other side all the time. You say, all right, if something comes up between us, we're gonna meet each other all the time, and we're gonna go through this fucking tunnel, but we're gonna meet each other on the other side. Fuck, this is like, even as I'm saying, this is like my dream relationship. Like if I could have this type of relationship, this is what's the most important thing to me, by the way. If I have this, if there is a realization that we are connected, and that that connection can be sort of like stretched by the matrix, and I would have to find my way back in, and she would have to find her way back in through her feminine perspective, and me from a masculine perspective, and meet at the center again. So if we play this game as first, then only then I would even bother being in a relationship. This is where I have arrived in my life at this point. All this casual nonsense, everything, and just cut off, out. I just want everything or nothing. I want this first, and if it's not there, then it's not a relationship. Like I'm talking about, man and woman relationship. But all the other types of relationships, of course, with friends and all that stuff, like you can still keep people in your outer radius as friends. Okay. And in a way, I think this is how we actually even meet who we're supposed to be with at that point, is through that thread, if you will, through the alchemy on both sides. So there, like, that's my prerequisites, because I'm not interested in dealing in coping with the matrix situations, right? Because to me, as soon as you enter the matrix, that's it, you're fucked. Like, you gotta get out of this, both of you. Both of you need to want it to always stay, because look, why would you not want to stay in this feeling of love and bliss? Okay, I'm trying to say only something evil would not want to be in the light. And so that's one of the things that was my realizations, is like, oh, okay, so I'm only responsible for my half of the game, and this is where I need to be always. Stay in the middle, stay in the middle, stay in the middle. And she has to play hers. If she doesn't, then there's no dance going on. But at least I'm staying in the middle, so there's some dance going on, at least at the energy level. Okay? So some dance going on. Right. Okay, so when the challenges were coming from the woman, okay? And sometimes they were crossing the line. And when they crossed the line, I did not check that. I did not check that, and I did not, alchemize it and set my will to basically create the consequences for that type of thing. So a woman knows to never fucking cross that line again, because this is, we're going into fighting with each other now, And as a man, it's your job to block her from going to be evil, you know? So there. So that's what I started realizing, and it's like, oh, okay. But before I was like, okay, well, I don't want to like really be aggressive with the woman, or like I'm talking even about the energy level, right? When that fire comes in through the woman, for example, when the fire comes in through the woman, I used to think that like, oh, you just have to let her vent or whatever, right? Fuck that shit, man. You meet that fucking fire and you burn it, and you don't let not a shred of fire coming out of her. You see, she doesn't belong there. You gotta completely take the entire fire, and she doesn't. Her soul doesn't really want to be in that anyway. And her job is to give that to you, so you can alchemize the fire, and you give all the water to her so she could open up to that flow. And so this is it. Like if two people don't understand that that's what the what the relationship how relationship works, then there's no relationship. Period. That's my standard. And everything else is nonsense. Like you don't need to like what fuck. So people like teach people say, look, women are programmed to cheat. Women is programmed like this. Like hey, like you're gonna go to war, right? Like and then you come back and then she's already slept with like 10 other guys. You see what I'm trying to say? And then you thought that she's your girl and you went to war for her and shit like that. Like all these super sad stories, and men think, oh my god, women are evil. No, but I mean, just look at fucking um, man's ego. Man's ego is equally disgusting as feminine ego. Ego is just fucking vile, period. But that doesn't, yes, the woman may have crossed the line into evil side, but there must be a soul there, right? Like there must be a soul there. That's why I want to say malicide and not like homicide, which is war and it's not really that helpful. With few exceptions, I am I'm I don't want to be like a political or anything like that, but I'm pro capital punishment. Like to me, what happened with the El Mencho, or what happened with um, this Iranian uh, guy, and this was what's going to happen to Israeli guy. It's um, it's justified because they're so evil, they are so dark that um, maybe another lifetime, okay, buddy. Like you're not, you went full retard in this one, so we're gonna lights out on you, okay. And at the same time, every time you lights out on these evil people, like where do you think that energy goes? It's try to enter other people. But if you stand your ground and you alchemize all that, now it's been done on both sides, okay. And that's how it's supposed to be done. When you kill somebody evil, you better know how to alchemize all of that evil, because that evil is going to try to enter to you into you, okay. And this is why malicide is important. um, but if the jail is not enough, right, like if somebody went sort of pretty dark but not abominable, not completely un how to say unsalvageable, right? Like for example, sending drones and killing children. I hear like again, I don't know what the fuck they are posting there or if it's even real. But if that's the case, if um, um, if there's that type of brutality towards innocents, yeah, buddy, you don't, your head does not belong on your shoulders, um, and all the evil inside of you will need to be somehow fucking exercised. Um, so there, so it's because there's no actual person there. You see what I'm trying to say? It's gone. It's just too black. So, and because there's no any kind of possibility to salvage that type of being. I think we have to realize that, because when a person gets way too dark, it becomes not salvageable. And this is why you see, for example, in the movies, what is used to see, that some people were kind of unsalvageable evil. Even at the end, when the hero gives them a chance to save themselves, they still try to betray, and they then die. Okay, and this is just true. And others, like they maybe moving in between, right? And the evil was trying to take him over but did not. So these people are salvageable, and these are non-salvageable people that we need to. There are not a lot of them, and usually they are at the top of the chain of creating evil. It's to do with lots of satanic rituals and stuff like that. These people must die. They're not people, okay, but but others, they do have capacity to be salvaged. And of course, there are these subtle evil people who you don't really see directly of how they inflict the pain and suffering, and this is usually done through the programming and these types of things where you don't really see how they do this, right? And another way of saying it is like casting spells. They do all sorts of things. But you see, like, spells do not work in silence. I'm talking about energetic silence. This is why that true deep compassion, that 0 point, spells do not work there. That's love. This is why love is so powerful. And people talking about the power of the woman, and it's just like, it's not a fucking power of the woman. The power of the woman is love, is to be that type of energy, that type of space, that in where the spells do not work. They just do not fucking work. They bounce back. And so when you have somebody like that type of couple where, there's the base of love, and then of course the base of light or power in a man, then you have something that is just basically immune to the whole matrix programming. And that's the only way to be immune. To say that there's no way at all, it's obviously nonsense. But also to say that all these people who act like they are out of the matrix actually are, no, they're not. You cannot get out of the matrix without the alchemy. I call it alchemy. Krishnamurti was not using this word, but he was essentially pointing to that process of alchemy process within each person. Okay. This is the first thing that everybody needs to learn of, like, say, how do you live on any kind of realities? How do you play the game? You begin with this. This is how you begin you playing the game. You understand that, like, first you satisfy your soul desires, because we're here to satisfy desires, of course. The soul desires satisfy like this through alchemy, pom pom pom. And then on the other side, the feelings that are positive. Then the mind has desires. So I want to create something. What do I want to do? I want to create this. I want to create that. That's my desire. You keep on imagining that. And then the body desires, like, I want to eat this type of food. This food is delicious for me. I need this. You see what I'm trying to say? And you pampering your body. I need to exercise. I need to get a massage. All of these different things that your body is enjoying doing. These are not hedonistic. Okay? Sex included. When you have everything else at the base, that's not a hedonistic type of sex. Okay? And in the body area, or like, the bodily needs, then it's like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, over there, as long as everything is based on love, you go nuts. You see what I'm trying to say? And so this is why, like, my philosophy does not take away any kind of kinks and games that people may choose to play in sex, right? Does not go away. So I'm not this prude guy that says, like, I'm just saying you have to approach everything from the benevolence, and in the body, that's all good. No, you don't actually lose any kind of bodily pleasures and mind pleasures. They're still there. Actually, what happens in the heart is called joy, what happens in the mind is called enjoyment, and what happens in the body is called pleasure. You see? So there. That's what's up. And what's up with you? Anyway, I'm supposed to promote my one-on-one sessions. So, if you want one-on-one session, just book one-on-one session. Essentially, well, I teach alchemy. I show people how to do alchemy, essentially. That's what I do. Whatever means necessary, because every person is different, and that's why I have to calibrate with the person. And then I can't just, make a general video about it. This is why sometimes, like, you could listen to me, I can point it out, but it's not like working out. And I know the frustration of this because it also is like, okay, I'm listening, okay, I'm doing what I said, but it's not working out because there has to be a specific type of personal calibration that takes place. It's a type of a little bit of exploration of your own, because when a person says the word this, what you do with your consciousness may not be that. You got to find that, like, oh, that's when I do this with my consciousness, that's what I mean. I just discovered, because sometimes, I wake up in the morning and I would just be completely freaking blissed out in this space, and my mind is quiet and everything's buzzing, and I was like, fuck, what the fuck is this? And I would just be there in that fucking ball of light, you know? And then I realized that I can go there. Like, I went there now. It's an expanse. I call it that state, expanse. Spaciousness, I think Eckhart Tolle was calling spaciousness. But now I know what it means because I'm like through repetitive exploration. Because that's the thing, you see, because you cannot. It's not a method. This is why it's so interesting. Is that only the people who are real can go through that. Because people who are not real and they're more mechanical and structured like that, they cannot go into this world of spontaneous flow of your consciousness and that liminal spaceness, or somebody should be shown the way, because somebody may be afraid to go into this, like, this unknown feeling that is spacious unfoldment, spacious unfoldment that is taking place. But you don't want to step into this, and because it's a foreign type of feeling. But when somebody's in that and say, like, okay, isn't it pointing out, will you feel this? Okay, now, and then you kind of see what that person is doing. It's like, okay, I can feel that person is clamping up tight, and then you can say, like, okay, just like open up, and then just open up, like you can feel that they're doing that correctly. Say, yeah, good, like that, right? So you can show a person of how to calibrate themselves. And this is what I do in a nutshell: consciousness calibration. Okay, and if you want to do this one-on-one, this is going to be the best investment of your life. You're going to learn the first primary skill of life that is necessary. Everything else will start falling into place. And no more bullshit, no more playing these fucking games. Let's go to astral and manifest things. Like, no, you do not have right, as far as I'm concerned, you do not have fucking right to enter astral unless you go through the side of your heart, to the soul. That's how strict I am on this one, because I used to fuck around in astral as well before I was even familiar with the alchemy that much. And I went to the astral through that side, to the other side. This is why another thing I want to say is that, yes, these exercises are good. You gotta train your mind for sure, just like your body, absolutely. But you gotta already be in a state of of that 0 point, I suppose, that expands. Then you can fuck around in the mind, you see, because you're sort of like really protected. You're not casting any kind of protection spells, because that's just a delusion, and that's just like if you cast a protection spell, that's really, it's just like a fucking imaginary bubble. And if somebody who's out of that spell game would just come and pop that bubble and say, where's your protection now, motherfucker? You see, but the real protection is infinite, and it's that and if you have that as a base, then you go crazy in astral then. Okay, that's what I would say. But the calibration has to happen first. And it's not just an imaginary world of imagining your chakras being aligned and whatnot, There's still a delusion. If people do that because they don't want to face that thing. They're running away from that thing that I'm pointing to. So then you go into the mind. And I'm trying to say, like, that's just ridiculous. And that's the Malicide. The Malicide is, it happens in your soul. Okay, it happens in your heart. It's the feelings that you break through. And of course, you gotta check and have strong will in a physical. Very important as well. You gotta have to have very strong will in the physical, because you have to attack it from both sides, through the alchemy, right, and then through the might. And the will is also a type of alchemy, because, but usually you feel it like in the solar plexus, and it's like you have an intent to do something, and there is an objection that's coming from the matrix by evil to not let you do that. You gotta break that through the might. You gotta just basically will through it. There's something people like a fighter's fortitude. You just have to say, okay, this is going to be done. It doesn't matter how fucking long it takes. This is all my energy is going through this. I don't give a shit what's in my way. This is going to fucking break and going to, my will be done. That's might. And it is a type of magic too. It's very close magic in the physical. When you, for example, in the astral, and you use your intent there, and you don't have to force there anything. You just like imagining something, you just allow it, and there that's created, and that's great. That's how you create in the dream world. In the astral, you can create everything. You delete something, create something. It's quite effortless. Does not feel like a lot of. Once you learn how to calibrate that, then you're just creating things, and there's no friction. With might is different. Might is just like a resistance training. With might, the very definition of might is powering through. That's the only friction that you have to use, but you have to use as a man, right? You have to do this because you got to not just alchemize things, not just imagine things, but you got to will them into existence by force, right? By force of might. Does not mean violence, but a force of might. Like you just don't let go of the outcome. People say, well, don't get attached with the outcome. Well, might is the opposite. Might is all about being so attached to the outcome that nothing else will fucking fall in between. And that's the only attachment that you're supposed to have, I suppose. It's a complete and total conviction. This is why I say there's there's 3 C's. The courage, this is what's necessary in your heart to alchemize. The confidence is what's necessary to dream that type of energy, and then conviction, and that's part of might. And then you're just completely convicted that thing. You are just going to do it or die trying, right? And this is the only might. That's why I have this type of conviction on creating this village. And the next conviction is going to be making sure that the fundamental laws, and people call it constitution and stuff like that, is revived as a real thing and actually listened to, and no law that is unconstitutional should exist, period. See, that will be my second conviction after I already have like this, at least, because I have to learn how to do this at least on a small scale before I fucking go out there and tell other people of how it needs to be done. So I need to see this functional suburb village type of place that's functioning, and that people are resolving problems somehow together, and it's not a community. I'm not fucking creating the community, but it is a type of social living situation. Like, you don't even have to be friends with all of your neighbors. I'm trying to say, like, you just own the property, do what you do, and you hang out with whoever you want to hang out, and everything's all right? And there are collective events that are happening, like a dance and martial arts and whatnot, and cooking classes and stuff like that, gardening. So yeah, I want to see that happening. Like, this is already happening in my scale, like, my scale, meaning, how to say, it's just me, that's what it means. Population 1, that's what it is. but it's working for me. So now just need to grow the population, and see if it works. But it will work. I know it will. So that's the thing about the mind, you know. As men supposed to take this thing, right? Because that thing is sort of like not enough, I suppose, pointed to, because look, I have to say something, like, to men and women, that you cannot compromise on certain type of patterns, and in a woman is field, because the masculine is a pattern, and the feminine is a field. Okay, it's a type of projection and reflection that's going on, but the reflection has the capacity to take shape, and the projection has the capacity to take shape. That's why it's so interesting. So a man have to do the man roles fully, and if they do it fully and don't compromise on those, then they're gonna feel good, and the feminine is gonna be around them naturally, even if it's on the energy level. Okay, and then as you go through life, it's gonna be on the physical level too. It just starts reflecting. Women are like that. The women who just in their own natural field, they're just gonna be gravitating around you. It's very interesting how it works. And it's a natural phenomenon. So that's why you have to never compromise on your true masculinity. Now, of course, you got to make sure that it's not, and if you do the alchemy, it will make sure that it's not your ego. The problem is, and the horrible problem is, when the stubbornness, when a person is not alchemized anything through, is still trying to get their, desire fulfilled, but that's ego-based desire. And then when they double down on the might, and they go like, oh, I'm gonna get it, or I'm gonna die trying, but that's the evil thing that they're going for, then they're gonna have to die trying. You see? But if you alchemize everything, then you do your courage work. That's the first thing. You never sacrifice your heart. Like, this is what, dude, that's one thing that I've learned. Is like, no matter what kind of energy is coming to my heart, no matter from who or what, I'm going to fucking take the whole challenge on. Never compromise on that. That is the first thing for me. Don't give a shit about anything else. This is the first thing to be handled. Boom. Done. I want nothing and pushing me there in my heart in a direction that I don't want to go, or that's not what's natural in my heart to go. So that's the first thing. The second thing is your intent. Right? You gotta know what's your intent, what you're creating, what you're all about, and stuff like that. These are principles. You may even write it down. I like writing them down. All sorts of principles. And you keep on imagining things based on those principles. Okay? And if there's some other fucking thing that's trying to be injected in the process of your thought, you revise it. You say, okay, what the fuck is that? Is this something that, according to my principles? No, it's not. Okay, fucking put it on the burner, burn it. And then inside of that, you will always find, it's actually inside. That's what is so interesting, because you're seeing, okay, this is a negative thought that's running in my mind, running this thing. Okay, I'm going to go inside of it. And in the mind, you can go inside of it. And then you see the fallacy of it, and you see what's on the other side. And the other side, you usually see like, oh, that's what they really want, because you see the emotion that is other, like if it was like, if the thought was from the source of abandonment and whatnot, right? And so then there would be some rejection scenario going on in your thought process, and you go inside of it, and then yes, you can do that, right? In that you go inside of that emotion. You don't ride on that emotion. You go inside of it. That's the thing. Is like, because if you ride that emotion, it's going to be, oh, poor little me, I'm abandoned. You say, no, that's not the direction. You go inside of that emotion, and then you'll see the other side, and the other side would be how loved you are, for example. So, and then the scenario changes, the thoughts changes, and it's like, oh shit, that's what's really going on. All right, cool, right? So that's another thing. Never compromise on the ideas and the thoughts that are not what what your mind's desire. That's your mind's desire. See, the soul desire did through the alchemy and theurgy, and now it's the mind's desire. You never compromise on your mind's desire ever. Okay? As long as you're alchemizing things, and because if you're still fucking bitter in your heart, and then you're imagining something and you think that that's good, but it's actually because it comes from the bitterness, then you got tricked. Okay, so weed your gardens, and only then you go into the might. And usually you don't need a lot of it because everything is based like prepared, right? This is what like in judo, the whole art of judo is to create the motion and scenario where opponent is the most unbalanced, and in that point, right? They call it kuzushi, is disbalancing your opponent. And when the opponent is this unbalanced, so to speak, right, on that particular thing, then you apply full force on that particular thing. Hit hard, hit fast, boom, done. Okay, and that's like the efficient use of might. But when you do this, you do it with complete conviction, and that's would be like the most beautifully performed throw in judo, for example. Perfect timing, complete conviction, no backing out of this, done, right? Because I mean, if your timing is wrong and the opponent is not this balanced, if you come in with conviction, that's not the, I mean, you know, we may get countered and whatever, and you see what I'm trying to say. That's why it's best to wait for those nuggets and time it perfectly and move with the full conviction. I know that people fight sometimes, like they go in and taste it and they see, okay, I tried this, I tried that. It's sort of like looking for the way in. That's not my style. It's just like as soon as there's the feeling is there to perform with complete conviction, you perform it. And so that's mine. But you're also not supposed to back down on this. It's still an energy level. It's, you know, we're talking about physical, but like what's really going on, you know, physical, like when you push the barbell, what's really going on? You're moving against resistance, you're using friction. So this is your will, this is your solar plexus. You're actually going to be asked to move through the resistance. You understand? This is why like all these fucking spiritual advice is just completely opposite for a man with a real truly spiritual man. You see? So that's might. And then that's how you impose your will. That's completely legitimate now because you alchemized it, you know, you sift through your imagination, you've done things right there, and now you're taking action that is absolutely prepared and earned and just. And that is the right action. You cannot arrive to the right action without first finding the right feeling, then finding the right ideas, images, and then executing the right action. So that's the thing, right? And on the woman's perspective, it is like that. But on the woman's perspective, basically, it's about being a field. Is what kind of field you need to be like, dude. Like that's so fascinating to me, because a woman can move into a certain state, which is a field for that particular situation that she may require, and so she may be really good at controlling the field, and you are very good at controlling the patterns and the patterning. Okay, that's the true power couple. When you completely focus on what the man's supposed to do on all those three levels, and she focuses on what the woman's supposed to do on this level, it's fucking unstoppable. This is what I know for a fact, that um and I know in my life that like I can go far by myself, and alchemizing the energies and staying with that energy of love at least. But I know that is a energy first, then the image second, and then the physical third. And I'm going by this. You see, like people talk all about manifesting your partner. That's the way I start seeing things. Right? I'm not going, physically looking for a person. I want to find that person in my heart, in my mind, and then I'll find it in the body. That's how I want to find it, because I know it's going to be real. And you can look from another perspective and say, well, that's kind of creating, your person, and then maybe they're creating you, because you're building. So, like, what kind of feeling that is love feeling? What kind of vision do you have? What kind of images? What do you want to do with your life? What you were doing together? What does that look like? What does that feels like? And then build that. And nothing that does not conform to that is right. Everything has to be exactly how you dreamed, and more, actually better than you dreamed. That's how it's supposed to be. But you paid your dues. You didn't um, just you because you can't, like, you're not gonna find true love without this type of uh, without going through this fucking thing, which is real. And people talk about spiritual journey, and it's usually just spiritual uh, lost in the forest. That's what it really is. But this is real. I mean, this is can be felt, and you have to live through it. And only when you go through this process of purification will you find your person. And it's not necessary to talk about, like, I don't really want to talk about these figures anymore, because everybody is just making the images out of it. Like, they use Jesus this, Jesus that. So it's not even necessary. Jesus is not some imaginary friend. Jesus is something that um, is a potential within your man, and Mary Magdalene is a potential in you. And there's no such thing as, like, I love Jesus first and then my husband. What the fuck are you talking about? Your husband must be what you think Jesus is. See, I don't. It's interesting. Anyway, I don't want to go into the subject, but enough of this fucking fluff nonsense. This is what I'm trying to say. Let's just be real um, with each other and understand it's all consciousness. Bible wrote things, the names there and events. It's all consciousness. Bible is best not to look at something that was based on the real life events. Of course, you can see those patterns playing out everywhere, even right now. You can point out into you can point out the evil person right now in this awareness sphere, right? Very easy. Who's the most evil person there, or where is it coming from? You can find it immediately. Say, like, oh, okay, that's okay, fair enough. You see, so it's not difficult. You see, it's to destroy the protection from evil. That's the difficult part. To detect evil is easy, but to destroy protection for the evil people, that's the difficult part. But it has to be done. You see. And this idea is like, oh, I love God, love this. Nah, man, what the fuck is happening with this? Like, I'm not for this. I don't know. Like, my soul is not from this type of culture. There's no such thing as recognition of a God as a separate entity. Um, it is a type of organizing principle that could show up everywhere in your life. It's a masculine, you can call it goddess and a god. That's very real, and that's not even a big deal, and it's just a part of every human being that lives in a benevolent way. So there's no even big deal. The God is not even a thing. You see what I'm trying to say? Like it's just in a background operating um, uh, thing that is just like everyday normal life. You know. So in my culture, nobody talks about God as like this thing because it's too busy living it. Nobody talks about Jesus because they know that the Jesus and the Mary are those facets of consciousness within a man and a woman, within your lover, within your husband, within your wife. That's what you need to be looking for. I mean, this is where it's coming through, but you have to have a capacity to see it, and that's you gain the capacity through alchemy. But then you start seeing it in the person, not some imaginary thing to create another imaginary friend. Manage my imaginary friend Jesus, and this is what people do. Like they create imaginary friends. Like this is my Archangel Michael imaginary friend. This is like they just create all of that stuff, not knowing that these are states of consciousness. It's all backwards, you see. Archangel Michael is a state of consciousness, and by the way, that deals with the will. It is whenever your will is under the most attack and it requires the most willpower from you, and whenever you go into that state where your will broke through and you go through this some sort of like this liminal infinite space where the energy is running through, but you broke through, and so you passed the pain threshold, and you're in that type of ecstatic state, and so that is Archangel Michael. It is a complete breakthrough of your solar plexus well. Okay, you see what I'm trying to say? That's why, like, there's no need to anthropomorphize anything. You already are this. Like, why would you need to create all these fluff nonsense? I shouldn't even be talking about this, but yet it seems that I have to for now. But I will stop as soon as I get too busy with the things that I have to do. Um, yeah, and I'm just gonna keep on talking until I get my regular one-on-one sessions, and then all my work will be done in person where it matters. Not that this doesn't matter, it does matter, but it's just like still an invitation. It's just an invitation. Alright, guys. I lost a little weight, but still keeping it real. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.